these already. And usually it's, 95% you guys sharing and talking and 5% of the vendors, state experts talking. So we'd happy to answer any questions that you might have, but we'd like to hear from you what's going on. I mean, just so it doesn't become a talking point, Costas doesn't have any answers yet on the pre and post test, but there are some webinars coming up this week with CDE that could demystify some of that, updates on the pilots that are going on. And then I think there's a EL Civics webinar this week as well. So Jay is on the call, but I don't think he has any new information than he did the prior week. So any specific questions on that, you're probably going to have Jay punting until after the webinar because he doesn't want to get ahead of CDE on the policy discussion. And then Penny is also on the line, and she can chime in with resources or best practices if you have any questions about that. And then I'm available related to policy. Veronica is also available to talk about policy or NOVA technical expertise, anything related to the webinars or professional development. So feel free to ask questions, share information. I do want to remind you, we do have a webinar for if you have a certified nursing assistant program. I think it's California Department of Health is having a webinar at 2 tomorrow to discuss specifically CNAs and the on-site requirements and things like that. And I know a lot of our K-12 adult schools do have CNA programs, so it might be important to get on there. And then we are also going to work with our healthcare experts to have our own CAPE healthcare webinar to talk about LVN, CNA, medical assistant, any other kind of CAPE related healthcare programs with our CAPE students involved. And so we'll be launching that in a couple of weeks. So with that, I mean, if you have questions about the CFAD, it's going to be due Monday because May 2nd is, I think, was that on the weekend? So you're more than happy to submit it on Monday. I know some of you are already working through that, and I'll be happy to answer any other questions. But for now, let's talk about you, and we can either go by consortia, we can go by program, whatever works for you. I'll leave it up to you. Whoever wants to start sharing, you can talk about your consortia, or you can talk about a specific program area. So feel free to unmute, and I'll pause here. So if anybody wants to be first up to ask questions or actually share information about what they're doing or challenges, successes, whatever you want to share. I'll even be up for people who want to share about advocacy, whatever you want to talk about. It's your hour today.
Well, since everyone's so quiet, this is Kathy Takimoto from Marin County. So I'll try and get us started here. In Marin, I think we're just having a lot of the same things happen that we've heard from other programs on previous CAPE conference calls. We have 6 members in our consortium. One is out in West Marin, which is a rural part of our county. And it's kind of sad. They've made some good progress in trying to offer ESL out in the west side of the county. They even started an ESL class at a dairy for the employees that work at the dairy. But now with COVID-19, all of that has come to a stop. And part of the problem out in that region is just even at the high school and the schools, their internet is not that great. And so they're trying to figure out something, but truly, I don't know if they can do anything to keep any of those ESL classes going right now. But we're still trying to work on that. You know,
Kathy, this is Neil. Can I ask a question? Have
yes,
you tried, and Penny can go into this a little further, there's a device called Rachel, or it's a platform. I don't know, Penny, do you have more information on that for remote sites?
Yes, I can post some things in the chat as well, but Rachel it's an acronym, of course, that it's remote access for community learning, something like that. And basically what it is a hopped up MiFi connection or Wi-Fi connection where in a local area, up to 50 learners can connect with a Bluetooth enabled device to this MiFi, but it also is a humongous hard drive. So all kinds of curricula can be loaded on that device. And they also have other devices that are basically USB devices that curriculum can be loaded on those USB devices and distributed to learners.
mhm.
So I'll post some information in the chat that people can explore on their own. And if they need any additional information, please reach out to me. I'll post my email address in the chat as well. We have some folks way up in the boonies that do not have reliable broadband and or even wireless connectivity, taking these devices out into the field, fire camps, ranches, etc., to provide curriculum, including career tech ed curriculum too.
Mhm.
So it's possible. So
Okay,
if you have any
great.
questions, let me know.
All right, I will. Thank you. And then otherwise at our larger adult schools that are in the urban areas here, I mean, they're just continuing on with the programs that they're offering right now. The TAM Adult School is actually still taking new students for ESL or HSE, HSD programs. So we're trying to get that word out right now too. I do a little bit of work with the North Bay Trades Introduction Program, which is a pre-apprenticeship program. It was originally funded by Proposition 39, and then the College of Marin received a Proposition 98 grant, which continued the course so we've had 12 cohorts around in Marin, Napa, Sonoma, and Solano counties. They're waiting to hear if they will be awarded an SB1 grant so that we can continue this class. We've had a lot of inquiries to offer this class to English language learners. And it's something that I know that there's been a couple of other grants out there. They haven't really worked for us to apply for one of those, but we're trying to figure out a way to do that. But Neil and Veronica, one thing that would help us is with English language learners, it's one thing I think, we can ask an adult school or community college to develop a plug-in ESL vessel type of component for the students. But many of the students are undocumented, and we refer them out to community agencies that can help them start applying for work status. But I personally just like to know more about how that works. Like, what are the different categories where a person can be granted the right to work in the United States? And realistically, how long do these processes take? And, are people actually successful? Because they can take the class, they can learn the English, but if they want to be a union trade apprentice, they need to have the right to work. So in many ways, we tell people, well, until we figure that piece out, is it really fair to provide this training for people when they don't have the right to work and they would never be able to apply for a union trade apprenticeship? If there's anyone else on from Marin County, if you'd like to add anything else, please do. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Kathy. So we have a couple of questions coming in, and then after we get through this question, I'll follow up and see if anybody has any information on working with undocumented students or students that are going down the path of citizenship. How do they handle that? What are the categories? So the question from Norma is, how are schools handling the graduation for high school students at the adult school? So Burr also says, I would be interested in knowing how schools are handling graduation. So if anybody has any information to share on that topic, that would be great. Just feel free to unmute.
This is Lionel. We've had this discussion. Our district in the high schools is going to do remote graduation. We looked at it and decided we would postpone it until we're back. The reason being people graduate throughout the year, and a lot of the reason they want to come to graduation is to bring friends and family. So we figured we'd just postpone it until we get back and do it then.
Thanks, Lionel. Anybody else with graduation information to share?
Yes, this is Juliana from Milpitas, and just like Lionel, our high schools are going to be postponing graduation, and most likely adult ed will be aligning with that.
Hey, Neil, it's Rick in Napa.
Hi, Rick.
Hey, so hey, our whole district is kind of moving as one in terms of graduation, and so the comprehensive and the alternative schools are doing a virtual graduation, and the adult schools going to follow suit. And it's a sort of a 3-stage celebration that I think will turn out to be really nice. We only have a few graduates because we graduate 3 times a year, but we'll participate and do a virtual.
Rick, what platform are you guys using for the virtual?
We're just going to do some pre-recordings and then put it out on our Facebook, our district's Facebook page. Do a Facebook Live during the assigned graduation time.
Okay, thanks.
Hey Neil, it's Chris Nelson from Oakland. We're doing pretty much the same thing that Lionel's doing. We're going to just wait until we're able to have a regular graduation again. And if it's December, then we'll hold it then, and we'll graduate everybody from September of 2019 all the way up till December of 2020. If we have to wait 2 years, then we'll just have the ceremony for everybody. But yeah, the same thing. We want to have family and friends there at the event, and that's why we decided on that.
Sorry about that. I got cut off. What did I miss? Veronica, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I got disconnected. My Wi-Fi has been acting up. I did want to ask the question about, well, I saw a question from Nancy, and then we'll get to Kathy's question. So regarding the disbursement of funds, I am working on the interagency agreement that allows the money to be sent to CDE, so it can be sent out to the K-12 and county office fiscal agents, as well as direct funded K-12 and county office members. And so I'm monitoring, everybody's CFAD, especially direct funded. I know some of you have already submitted and certified. Some of you are working on it, and you have until Monday. And then I've asked all of you that are direct funded, is anybody getting less than the prior year? So you have told me which ones are getting less, so we can be aware of that. So what we'll be doing is putting that interagency agreement over to CDE as soon as possible and getting that signed so we can get cash out. Now, the problem is there's going to be a legislature goes back next week. There will be some kind of May revise. We're not sure what that's going to look like, if it will even address our program. And then there'll be some kind of August adjustment as tax revenues come in, and we'll see what that is. We haven't heard anything about them changing the statutory requirement to get the funds out by the end of August. So we're going to still work with that premise. So we want to get that funding out to you once the governor signs the budget. We have 45 days to get that funding out to you. So Nancy, hopefully we won't have any hiccups like we've had the last 2 years and have late issuance of funding. And we're working to get that to you in the fall when schools start back. So hopefully that answered your question. I kind of lost the chat here, but so Kathy's question about working with undocumented students or students that are working on their citizenship. Does anybody have any tips for Kathy on the best approach, how that works? If you're enrolling them in vocational programs, VESSL, or other types of IE, integrated education and training, IET, those kind of things. Anybody else have anything to offer to Kathy, some tips? I know I saw San Jose, South Bay on the line. I know they've been really good with their immigrant population. If you guys have anything to offer there, that would be great.
Hi, this is Ilse from the South Bay Consortium. We put together a resource guide for all our transition specialists and other staff at school in order to make it a bit easier for them to connect students with resources. And in that, we added in a section for undocumented students particularly. So I'd be happy to share those resources with everyone. I'll add a link into the chat. It's about support services more broadly, not necessarily program administration for undocumented immigrants right now, but I hope it's going to be helpful.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Okay, anybody else with information to share before we move on? And I lost, if anybody had a question after Nancy's comment, I've kind of lost the group chat when my phone disconnected or my Wi-Fi. But while we're on the topic, immigrant services, anybody else have any information to share or pass along?
Hi, Neil. This is Nancy from Sonoma County.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi. We do several integrated programs, and specifically to address Kathy's question regarding immigration, our Petaluma Adult School, and I think Nancy and Lori are both on the conference call, so they can chime in if they feel comfortable doing that. But we refer students to their citizenship courses, but the majority of students who at this point are undocumented or don't have right to work papers, we work with our community-based organizations who are the facilitators of getting our students to the organizations they need to work on right to work. And we do several right to work seminars in association with them every year. As far as integrated curriculum, we have it in several different, construction in particular. We have developed, we have a vocational ESL and that we develop to the specific industry sector that we're working with each semester. The ESL course runs the whole 17.5 weeks of the college semester, and we run 2 8-week career training programs that are specific to the ESL, well, the ESL curriculum specific to the CTE programs.
All right, great. And then Ilse just shared her link in the chat. So we've got a lot of good information. Thomas has a question. I'd be curious to hear how other schools are reckoning attendance hours in distance learning. So let's open that up, see if anybody has anything to share on Thomas's question.
Hi, Thomas. This is Tashelle Diaz from Cerritos College. As far as our attendance hours, our classes for adult ed are synchronous with their original scheduled time. So our time is time for time. We use Canvas for all of our classes, and we take attendance through there and then enter that into TE for daily attendance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Lionel from Sequoia Adult School. We're doing something similar. We went through and figured out what counted as distance learning, and the teachers then put it into ASAP. There's a field in ASAP that you can open up so that you can put in asynchronous scheduling, and then that's uploaded to TE and Zoom. You know, we have Zoom lessons during our regularly scheduled lessons, and they put in as distance learning. And then if people are working in Canvas outside of class or Khan Academy or any of those things where we can see the actual hours, that's also put in as distance learning.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, we have a question from Karen. Does anyone have tips or tricks to working with teachers who are reluctant to use digital platforms? So how did you go about launching your distance learning with possible reluctant teachers? Did anybody encounter that? And how did you deal with it?
Hi, this is Norma.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, hello. Yeah, we had some teachers who were a bit reluctant. So what we did is at the beginning, we would have, let's say, kind of a co-teacher with them, facilitating the Zoom or the Google Meet, just so that the teacher could then see what was required, and we can troubleshoot with them. And it seemed to really be helpful, because then we switched it over so that the teacher can do it. But it was a lot of hand holding at the beginning. I think it was really just a fear of doing it, but having somebody there who was more proficient with the technology really made a big difference for us. And then now we have everyone on board. But that was a big issue for us when they have the first couple of classes.
Great, thank you. And then there's a few other comments, but let's see, anybody else have comments on how you got your teachers on board?
Hi, this is Erica from Benicia. We have a smaller district, and our ESL teacher doesn't have access to internet or capability of using those platforms. So we've been reaching out by phone, and I've given her the list of phone numbers and things like that, using packets, using other things. And then I've been trying to access Burlington English to add some of the students onto that platform for her, and then just watching their progress for attendance myself. But as far as she goes, as far as the teacher goes, she doesn't have access.
Okay, great. And then Burr, if you're still looking for attendance tips, Burr left some comments there. Norma had a comment there, and Isabel. And then Nancy followed up on her with more information with serving immigrants. And Tichelle said, offer one-on-one coaching with our full-time faculty. We also converted our office staff to support staff. Each faculty has been assigned support staff to help students with technology portions of the class. And then Lisa says, West Contra Costa is providing twice weekly tech hours for staff via Zoom, where instructors can log in with any issues they are having and learn and get inspired by their peers. Okay, then Penny says, OTAN Costas and other providers are offering webinars, one-on-one support, specific office hours, and you can sign up at the link there. Penny, anything else to offer? What are you seeing out there around the state as far as the easiest way to get teachers on board? Are there some real secret magical things you're seeing, innovations that you can share?
Well, I wish I had the magical fairy dust, but it sounds like most of the folks that are talking have, hit on the most effective, which is the one-on-one support of the coaching. That does work very well. Unfortunately, not everybody had an opportunity to have something like that in place. So it's nice to see those efforts, like from West Contra Costa and others that are trying to fill that gap through online support, because it really does take, from what we've seen, it takes that piece of personal touch between what you might call a technology enthusiast to someone who might be a little more reluctant. Most of the time, those reluctant teachers are reluctant because they have their own concerns about looking bad or feeling like they're inadequate in front of their learners. And now we've compounded that even more because of the technology that's required. So having someone who is literally, a phone call away or an email away to help them is really important, and it really does help those reluctant teachers know that, you know, first and foremost, they have support. Second, that it needs to be reiterated to them that they will make mistakes. The technology will fail, and it's okay. it will happen, and you know, you can learn from your mistakes. Those are probably the best things between coaching and having that support at hand. And if it can be someone who's in the same program area, that always makes it a lot easier, because then a teacher who's might be really enthusiastic about technology can show and tell that information or those tools to another teacher who might not be, and all of a sudden just one success in using something like a simple online assessment tool really can help those reluctant teachers to think, oh, wow, I really can do this. And secondly, this really isn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. That's a lot of what we've been hearing in our support sessions that OTAN is doing, is like, wow, this wasn't as hard as I thought, but I'm having this problem with this one little thing. And then that's where we try to help them out online.
Great. Thank you so much, Penny. All right. So no more questions in the chat. So let's open it up to have you talk about any kind of successes you're having in whatever program you're offering. What successes or small innovations or, you know, amazing things, or even just things that you didn't expect are happening in certain programs that you would like to share. Feel free to unmute and share.
So Neil, this is Lionel. I'm going to go a slightly different direction, if I may. You started
Sure.
off by saying it would be okay if we advocated. So I just want to really urge everybody to reach out to your local legislators, and CCAE and KAI have sent out materials and tools to do that. It's really, really important, because who knows where the budget is going. And we don't want the same thing to happen that happened in 2008, 2009. So please reach out to people. Thanks.
Thank you, Lionel. Anybody else want to share something exciting or anything that that you're working on, that your school is pushing forward given the circumstances?
Hi,
This is Bob. Go ahead.
Ilse and Bob talking at the same time. That happened before. So I wanted to piggyback on Lionel, and hi Lionel. I think just as important as advocating with legislators is reminding other stakeholders in your community that adult ed exists and that adult ed has a role to play in economic recovery. And we were fortunate here that our partners, Catholic Charities of Santa Clara County, has pulled together this workforce development task force that really brings together all the players and all the stakeholders. So they have nonprofits, workforce development boards, education, and local elected leaders in those groups, and they're really trying to coordinate a longer term, a short, medium, and longer term response to the economic impact of this crisis, and how we can all work together to get people back into the workforce, and especially the population that is adult ed serves. So that's we were fortunate that Catholic Charities took the initiative, but I think for other schools and administrators and consortia to maybe proactively reach out to those players and just remind them that, you know, we're in a position to help with economic recovery and train people and get them ready to get back to work when the time comes. And now Bob.
Mr. Harper. Paging Mr. Harper.
Sorry. Yeah, the advocacy thing, just like absolutely connecting with our districts as well, right? And that's anticipating what might happen in 2008-9. But what it also is saying, so we have a much different presence in our regions now. And as we talk to our legislators in the next couple weeks, really, I think the message is, what a critical partner we are in a regional response to the crisis, right? And really, as Ilse was saying, like, drop the names of all of our partners in our regions that we're working with, because this has got to be a collective effort to respond to this crisis. But that's not what I was going to share. We are lending Chromebooks to students, because obviously the question of access is huge, right? I mean, those students who are tech savvy, digital literacy, and have bandwidth or their data plans a lot. I mean, so the students that are least disrupted by COVID-19 are a certain group, but the students most impacted negatively are those that don't have access, right? So I appreciated Penny's information about having a Wi-Fi hotspot in that device that has like unlimited curriculum available. I wonder what else people are doing. I'd be interested. I mean, so lending out Chromebooks, using CAPE money to buy more Chromebooks to prepare for the next couple months or next year to make sure there's infrastructure. What are people doing to make sure that there's equitable access? I think it's a huge question.
Sorry, this is Lionel. The other thing we did is we gave out hotspots to some students, because the issue wasn't computers, it was access to the internet.
This is Nancy from Sonoma County again. We did a pretty extensive outreach to students for technology needs. We did an initial technology survey, and based on student responses, we did initiate a technology loan program for students. So we actually went out into several different communities because we knew students couldn't get into the college campus, and did the distribution. And that was utilizing our library's current system to check out books, but we would check out equipment instead. But our office did the distribution because many of our students needed a Spanish-speaking person. Prior to the delivery of the technology, we actually did practice Zoom classrooms with students. We wrote out all of the instructions on how to access Zoom in both English and in Spanish. We have video tutorials for Zoom. We did Facebook Live events with our students to let them know about the technology distribution and utilizing Zoom as a classroom. And let's see what else we did. And then we did a follow-up survey the first week after we had the classes to see what additional tech support students needed. We assigned an outreach specialist or a student assistant to every single class so that they could be the technology expert and the teacher could be teaching, and their time in the classroom wouldn't be taken away with tech support. So we did that outside of the classroom as well. And we gave out 150 laptops.
Great. So Nancy, you had a question about federal funding. I tried to put into the chat, it's kind of a long list, but it starts with Ventura and goes down to Hacienda La Puente. But these are schools that are certified by COE accredited, so they do get Pell Grants. So for some reason, they're on the list to get federal COVID funds because they hand out those Pell Grants to students and they're certified. So not anybody, Mount Diablo in the Bay Area looks like, and then up north, Ukiah, but most of them are down south in the Central Valley. But I just thought I'd share that with you because we did come across a website that had the federal COVID funds and what schools were getting them, and it just happened to be that small set of adult schools. There are a lot of colleges on that list as well. So just that's all I can share on that one. I'm not sure of anything else.
Thank you.
Sure. And then Lori says FUSHSD gave out Chromebooks and hotspots as needed after the tech survey to students. Isabel did the same. Tichelle asked, are we able to use CAPE funds to purchase Chromebook laptops for our students? You can purchase the equipment, but you can't give the equipment away. So Tichelle, you'd have to work out some type of loan situation, and then hopefully your district has a policy and procedure for loaning out equipment to students. I mean, if you loan out books, I'm sure you could use kind of a similar policy, but it would really be up to your district policy on how you could handle that. So CAPE allows you to buy equipment, you know, for classroom instruction, but you'd have to look for a local policy on how to enact that. And then you can't give the equipment away to students. The gift of public funds would kick in there. So let's see. And then Lionel shared the advocacy link for CCAE. And then, oh, Lori said we loan students. Okay, good. I'm glad you clarified that. I wasn't thinking about that. Okay, so anything else to share? I mean, we're still kind of sharing out what's going on. We have 20 minutes left. We could turn it over to Jay Wright and Penny and Carolyn and Veronica, and they could talk about some things, but we'd like to hear what you guys are doing maybe for the next 10, 15 minutes, or we could talk about some subject matter or questions.
Hey,
So
Neil.
go ahead.
Neil, this is Carolyn, real quickly. The same holds true for WIOA funds, that you have to have a policy in place. You can use your WIOA funds to buy Chromebooks or whatever you're going to be using, but you have to have that policy in place for loaning them out and getting them back.
All right, thanks, Carolyn. Okay, then someone was going to share something.
Yes, Neil, this is Kim in Oakland. How are you?
All right, how are you?
I'm all right. One of the things our teachers are doing is they get together once a week on Tuesday, and they bring ideas to a tech meeting. So they bring their ideas, and then teachers who need help with anything technology related, that's where they pose those questions. So it's like a little forum that we do on Tuesdays. It's pretty helpful.
Great.
Neil, this is Sharon from Castro Valley.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I just wanted to piggyback on something that Kim just said. So, but one thing that I thought was the most helpful that we did for getting teachers going was we started doing a Google Hangout, not so much with the video, but just the like a running chat that they have. And I check in with the teachers every morning or afternoon when they're teaching. And one of the things that I found has been really great is that they've started sharing their successes. So, oh, I had 15 people show up to a class, or I learned how to use Screencastify, and they're putting their little successes into that running chat, and helping one another solve problems. So I found that has been a surprisingly effective, and it doesn't require any maintenance on my part, just checking in with people, and it's kind of got a life of its own now. So I found that to be really helpful. That and having our department coordinator created Wix websites for all the teachers who didn't have them. So she just made the shell. And somehow just getting them started with that was actually very, very helpful. And Wix is a really easy website builder to use.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Neil. This is Peggy from, I was going to say FUHSD Adult School, but that was a long time ago. From the North Santa Clara County Consortium. Hey, we have a newer director in the Bay Area, Lisa Gonzalez. So Lisa, I'm calling you out now. I'd like to invite her to share a little bit about how she's onboarded teachers, how they're working with students who pretty much just have phones, and her tech office hours that she's doing. So Lisa, are you still here? Can you share some of that?
Oh, Peggy.
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
Goodness. Yeah, so some of these things I've shared in the chat. Again, I'm Lisa. I'm from West Contra Costa Adult Education. And some of the things I put in the chat already is that we have been hosting tech office hours twice a week at around 11:30 to 12:30, where any teacher can come in and answer or get any tech question they have answered, or share issues they've been having, or share successes. So it's like these tech platforms, and that's for all staff. So CTE, fee-based, ESL, and then in addition to that, a lot of our departments have been having their own staff meetings online as well to discuss some of the issues that teachers have been having with relation to tech. We've also, the way that it panned out at our school is that we did not require teachers to move to a distance model right away. And so there were the teachers that, really wanted to keep in touch with their students and were really concerned about their students. So they were kind of the first wave, and they, had tech questions and were figuring things out during the first few weeks. Then when we made it mandatory for all of our CAPE-funded teachers to move to a distance learning platform, that's when the reluctant ones started to get on board. And so there were teachers that at that point were already 2 or 3 weeks ahead. So they were considered the experts. And so they got paired with the new teachers that were just coming around to switching to distance learning. Another thing that I think Peggy was referring to is a document that we created, which has been shared. It's highlighted on the OTAN's COVID-19 field support page. A document we created on presuming that most of our students did not have devices. We have about 2,500 students, and most of our students don't have computers at home. And so starting with the lowest common denominator, students primarily just have cell phones. How can we deliver content via that platform? So content that can be delivered via text message only, presuming that students don't have computers, and furthermore, assuming that students don't have emails, because a lot of our students have, low digital literacy. And so asking them to all of a sudden be able to manage emails and passwords and logins, that was going to be asking a lot. And so we've been trying to prioritize content that, again, can be delivered not only via cell phone, via text, but that also is content that doesn't require any kind of password or login. And I'll stop there.
Wow. Okay, great. This would be a good time because everybody's sharing such good information. Veronica, do you have a chance to share what we're going to be launching for everyone to participate in? And then we'll be using this tool to publicize great information, practices, innovation, successes that people can also share with their public officials. Do you want to give everybody a little background on that?
Yes, so we will be launching the COVID-19 Google group, and that's an opportunity for us to come together on a more regular basis to share, challenges, successes, and then opportunities for collaboration and improvements amongst the entire state. So we'll be sending out an invitation. The invitation will be sent to consortia leads and members because that's who we have in our internal database. However, we are requesting that if there are other members within your consortium, whether they are instructors, transition specialists, support staff, counselors, whomever is involved in this COVID-19 transition, to please pass the information along to them. There will be a link for them to be able to join the Google group. And like I said, it's just an opportunity for everyone to collaborate across the state in a more immediate fashion. So definitely be on the lookout for that information. It'll be coming out relatively soon.
Great. Thanks, Veronica. And that way, every couple of weeks, we're going to try to summarize some of the information we're getting from the Google group, maybe share some of the survey information. If we get COSTAS data, maybe share some of that. But if you can't wait and you're going to talk to your public official, at least you can go on the Google group chat and kind of see what people are doing. It'll be written down. So you can use that as you talk to your public officials if that's coming up. because we can only pull this stuff together every couple of weeks. So if you can't wait, we'll give this as a vehicle for you to see what's going on in the other parts of the state. Just really quickly, I wanted to share, Laura shared, they are assigning their childcare attendants to each of their ESL student classrooms for bilingual assistance related to tech training and things like that. So with their new tech skills and their fluency in non-English languages, it's really been working well in the classroom. And then Chris Nelson has to offer good information. All I want to stress now is the time to start PLCs, professional learning communities. By having our PLC in place in Oakland, we're able to move quickly to online learning because of the supports of the PLC that we have in place. Peers working with each other provide support, guidance, and the push to reach goals and much more. Out of the PLCs, we developed other specialized group like tech groups that Kim had just mentioned. Great. And then Laura added, teachers have been spending a lot of online time on social, emotional support, say like access to community services, completing the census, tips for parents to assist their children with classroom work, all good information. So I'm going to pause there to see if anybody has any additional comments before we wrap up with the state leadership and vendors.
Neil, this is Lionel. Could I add something, please?
Sure.
We have a lot of students who have cell phone numbers, and but not so good with emails. So there's a website called Data24, which will take a cell phone and convert it into a basically textable email address. So you can, put a few hundred of them into your Google Mail, and it then generates texts to the phones of the students, and it's really helped us reach a lot of students who we would normally just pick up the phone and call. So it's kind of a powerful tool.
Thanks, Lionel. Can Veronica or anybody with TAP, like Holly, can we put the survey in the chat? Sharon wanted to get the link so she could fill it out. So maybe we can add that in the chat for anybody who hasn't filled out the survey yet. Okay, while we're waiting for that to be posted, anybody else have any closing things to share? Oh, okay, so who should I direct local workforce board directors and regional workforce staff that are interested in the COVID-19 Google group? You mean to join? So if they want to join, I think just contact TAP. I mean, this isn't exclusive to adult education. It's our partners. We have workforce partners, library partners, community-based partners. So as long as they're serving adult students or the adult population, we'd want to hear about it. So I think just contact TAP, and that's via our website, or you might already have that email. So hopefully that answered your question. And anything else to share?
This is Lisa again from West Contra Costa. I got a few private messages asking me to share the document that we created on how to deliver educational content, assuming that students only have cell phones, and I put the link to that document in the chat.
Okay, and then I think we'll make this chat archived along with the recording, and I think TAP is posting those. Veronica, do you know where you're posting the archive version of these network meetings? Or do they get sent out after the meeting to the participants? Okay, well, okay, so Holly posted it. It's under administrators. So if you wanted to copy that now, that's where we're putting the archive version of the chats, because there's a lot of good information on that. And then somebody wanted to share, I did want to let you know that Aztec Software is offering 10 digital social and emotional titles for 60 days for free. And then Lionel put that text students via email link in there. And then, of course, TAP put the critical events survey, if you haven't filled that out. And then Holly put more information on where that's located. Penny added some more information. And then Chris is signing off. But so let's close with Jay. You've been really quiet, which isn't really the norm. So we're going to give you a couple of minutes to speak your mind.
Well, I'll try to avoid that. I guess my 2 cents will mostly be kind of what you were anticipating at the beginning. We do have some big workshops coming up on Thursday and then next Monday. We've got one in the morning, one in the afternoon, CDE and CASAS on remote EL Civics on April 30th, and then a similar morning and afternoon workshop arrangement for remote pre and post testing on the 4th. It'll be a collaborative effort with CDE CASAS. CDE will discuss what that means in terms of policy, and then we'll detail the studies we've been doing on that. I guess long story short is on pre and post. We started our remote pilot beginning of last week. We basically have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 we're in now. It finishes the end of this week. We start phase 2 next Monday. I guess phase 1, we have basically just 6 agencies nationwide. We're keeping it small. We're restricting it to one-on-one testing, meaning the first pilot, we're doing it all via Zoom and all that, but we're only having the proctor monitor 1 student at a time. When we move into phase 2, we'll try to get a little more complex and interject, the proctoring of multiple students at a time and probably open it up to a larger number of agencies, although probably not as many as we've actually been getting a lot of inquiries, but we'll probably necessarily need to keep it smaller probably than the number of volunteers we have. But we'll do phase 2 starting next week, and then phase 3 is kind of TBD depending on how many we have and how many things work out well and how many things don't, I guess you might say. But 2 big webinars Thursday and next Monday.
Okay, great. And the audience today was so respectful not to pepper everyone with pre and post testing questions. So that was amazing. So I appreciate that. Okay, Carolyn, if you're still on the call, anything to close out with?
So this is Carolyn. So first of all, I want to thank CASAS for really looking at this idea of how can we do testing in a remote environment, and also to Octave, who is open to us being able to do this in this new environment. So I'm excited about what we're going to be talking about on Thursday and Monday. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to sort of echo what Lionel was saying earlier, and that is get your stories out to your legislators. Make sure they know what good work you're doing, that we are an economic driving force, and that we help those adults certainly in these economic times. So more philosophical, I think, today, Neil, than probably other days, because it looks like everything else was covered.
Great, thank you. Peggy, any closing remarks? I'm sorry, Penny. I was looking at Peggy's reply. Penny, sorry.
Not a problem. No, I think, everybody, we've had an opportunity to tell you about, the resources that are available both through the CAPE website as well as OTAN. So just if you need any help, just reach out to us. We're here to help you. That's what we do.
All right. And everyone gets those OTAN updates, I hope. We send them out to our CAPE listserv. They also go out to the OTAN listserv. So all kinds of stuff happening every day through OTAN. So we really appreciate that. And then we'll close with, so just a reminder, Certified Nursing Assistant webinar tomorrow at 2. You don't have to register, just log on. I would advise to get on a little bit early in case they max out their access number. And then CFAD due May 2nd, but you can turn it in on Monday. Keep us posted on any kind of policy questions coming up. And Veronica and Holly, anything else to add and closing out? Appreciate everybody on the call today, all the sharing. So it was great. And I'll turn it over to Veronica for last words.
Thank you, Neil, and thank you to everyone who was on today's call. We appreciate you all participating today. I have posted several links in the chat regarding professional development opportunities that are upcoming, as well as the links to register for the webinars that Jay and Carolyn mentioned on April 30th and May 4th. So definitely be sure to register for those opportunities, and as well as everything that has been shared here, we will be adding to the CAEP COVID-19 page. So definitely be sure to look at that page on a regular basis to obtain any of the latest information or resources that we have available to us. As I mentioned before, we will be launching the Google group. So definitely be on the lookout for an invite to the Google group, and it'll also be featured in this week's newsletter. So definitely pass that information along. Again, there will be a link in there for those who we do not have email addresses for. They will have an opportunity to join via the link that will be provided. So again, thank you all very much for participating. Oh, also, we do send out our evaluation after network meetings such as today's. So definitely be sure to complete that evaluation. We do use that as an opportunity to assess the different professional development needs that are out there and to try to coordinate those needs so that we're all, continuously engaging in solving any issues that we can. So definitely please fill out that evaluation. The recording and all of the resources will be added to the CAEP website later on this afternoon. So be on the lookout for that. And thank you all for joining, and we hope to talk to you all soon. Thank you and have a great afternoon.